John Macon had a lifelong fascination with and enjoyment of railroads. When he retired in the 1990s to a bedroom community outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that enjoyment became an obsession. And that obsession became what today is the A-Joke train layout at the Kruger Street Toy and Train Museum. Early in his retirement, John's wife Bunny became concerned that a man can only golf so much, and she wanted him to develop other hobbies to fill his now ample free time. So she purchased an A-Joke electric train set for him. Little did she and the Macon children know that this would ignite an obsession in John. Over the next few years, he turned the basement of their home into an enormous miniature world. His children saw a side of him that they hadn't seen much prior to this, a creative, artistic side, and it amazed them. We were fortunate enough to catch up with Catherine and Liz recently, and they shared with us some of their memories and stories of their very artistic, very creative father. Today we're talking with Liz Macon and Catherine Mers. They're the daughters of the late John Macon, who was the brainchild behind much of the HO train layout at the Kruger Street Toy and Train Museum. What I'd like to have you do is just tell us a little bit about your father, what he was like growing up with him, and what was it like living with someone who had a rather unique obsession and had an entire basement filled with a miniature world.
So our dad was born in Alabama in 1938, grew up in Bessemer outside of Birmingham, and spent a lot of time playing at his grandmother's home, which was located near a rail track. So as a boy playing around the railroad track, there was an incident that he shared as a young boy throwing a rock at a Southern Crescent train, and the conductor showing up at his grandmother's house to
got in trouble for
make
that
sure,
one.
Right, he had to make amends, and I don't recall if there was, working off the dead of the window or what have you, but that certainly stuck out. And then later, and I'm not sure if he was in high school or college, but he worked for Pullman, and he was painting the couplings of the rail cars.
So he actually worked for a rail company for a while.
For a rail company, but always, so as long as we have always known, he had a love of trains. But growing up, he was, worked in an office, suit and tie every day, his entire career, at one company, whole entire career at one company. Those years, his hobby was mainly golf. And I know that my mom was kind of concerned, what is he going to do in retirement outside of golf? Yeah. Well, he took up two things, one being photography, and then the other being the HO scale trains, which, as you can kind of see today in the layout, I mean, he went all in. To that point, I didn't know he had any real creativity in him. I mean, he wasn't an artist, but when he started doing the trains, he would construct the buildings, paint them in a weathered look, as you can see on the layout. It looks like you would find it in the real world, the way he did that painting. So that was really, I think, eye-opening to all of us to see that side of him.
I can just remember my whole life growing up, Dad being a train nut. We would take trips to Horseshoe Curve on a regular basis. He loved it there. We would do the Reading train where they take you on a tour and you have a meal. The Stroudsburg train, similar thing. The Jim Thorpe train station. I mean, Dad was definitely always obsessed with trains. But yeah, and then like Kat shared, when he started to actually build this train set, it really became clear how creative and artistically talented Dad was. Yeah, the weathering detail, a lot of thought went into how to lay the trains out so that they were winding in and up and over and around, and you know, he was definitely methodical in the building of this huge layout. Just a train guy. Yes.
Real patient with this, and I would not, in any other context, describe him as a patient man.
No. No, not at all.
You know?
Yeah.
That was another eye-opener.
Yeah, he would like sit at this art table that we had set up in the living room so that he could be listening to music and watch TV. Dad was a man of the arts. He loved music. He loved the theater. He loved museums. He loved history. All of these things were really important to him. But he would sit at this table and put this magnifier around his head that dropped down like that.
Yes.
And he had like a light, and he, you know, just these tiny details to go on because the HO scale is somewhat small.
It is.
Yes. And I remember him using tweezers to assemble pieces and these teeny tiny pointed paintbrushes. I mean, yeah, extreme attention to detail and very patient with the process. Mm-hmm. He wanted to do it right. Dad did things right.
Oh, yeah. And that definitely came through in the layout itself, the level of detail on it. And honestly, as you know from your recent visit, we didn't have to add that much to it. We just basically enlarged it a little to make it a little more comfortable for the visitors to go through and see all of it. You had mentioned that your father involved you in this hobby, going different places, excursion railroads and things of that nature. Did he involve you in any of the layout construction?
No, he involved us in the play. I remember him being excited to share with me what he had worked on while I was at school, and letting me operate the train and getting to watch it go around, racing the trains and that kind of stuff. Now, I don't think it was his intention to exclude us. I think probably in hindsight he may have hoped that I would have asked to participate more or something like that. You know, but being a preteen at the time.
Exactly. There were other more serious priorities.
But yeah, he did. I do recall him being excited over the layout and sharing that with me.
Yeah, it truly was his own hobby, and I can recall, you know, my mom getting the credit card bill and saying, "John, what is all this?" I needed a couple things for the layout, you know, and I think, as you can see, I mean, there was no penny spared.
Yes, yes.
I think a lot of the rolling stock may have actually gone on eBay before we connected with the museum to try and find a home for the layout.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, there was quite a bit with it when we picked it up, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spoke to Mom yesterday just to make sure that I was remembering things right, and she did say that she would post. Dad had all these unfinished kits, and she would post the kits. She said 5 a day on eBay, and it took like over a year to sell all the kits.
Right.
Yeah.
We had.
Where was he going to put all of those? Because when we came up and saw the layout itself, the yards were full.
Right.
The sign of a true obsession, right?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, all collectors, no matter what you collect, are like that. And even though he was an operator, he was. You could see he was a collector. There was a grand vision and a mission to this layout. I could definitely see it, and I'm glad to hear, because frequently model railroading, and it's not necessarily true, but the belief is that it's a guy's hobby.
Right.
But it's nice that he involved his daughters in it, even if it's just playing with it. That's a big thing for a lot of people. Other than with the layout, just a little bit of background. What was your dad like? What was it like growing up? That.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it might be interesting to hear our two perspectives. We're 11 years apart, and we are the only two siblings, daughters, of our mom and dad. So, I grew up as an only child for a long time, and we moved quite frequently because of his work. So we were moving, every couple of years. And like I said, a huge love of golf. We spent a lot of time on the golf course. Very big reader. I think he probably read a book a week or more. I mean, constantly reading.
Yeah.
And a great daughter father, I think.
Yeah.
Just
good girl dad.
Yeah, good girl dad, right? Raised us to stand on our own 2 feet, and just did a lot of things that I recall and now share with my husband, as he's a dad of 2 girls. And I remember when my dad would say this or do this, and how important, this relationship is. So, yeah, really, just really happy, warm relationship with, a very bright person that we didn't find out till later in life was quite an artist as well, really.
I see.
Yeah. So for me, I lived in the same house, the house that you picked the train set up from, my whole life. So I didn't have the experience of moving around. And when I was quite young, Dad retired. So Dad was like my buddy.
Right.
He would pick me up from school. We would go do things. He and his best friend Jack would take me to the zoo, and
Right.
I mean, just like all kinds of fun stuff. I do recall Dad being very into golf, and his like ridiculous golfing outfits.
Right, could
Oh
not
my
coordinate
gosh.
an outfit.
He would wear these like insane pastel plaid pants with like a salmon colored shirt to go play golf, and Dad was just funny that way. And he always wore like a cowboy hat and a bomber jacket to pick me up from school, and but yeah, Dad, like Kat said, he was just a lot of fun, very loving, very, very smart, had a presence about him in a room. And I don't know if that's just because of who he was, or because of him being so tall.
Yeah, he was a
and
big guy.
commanding that way. But yeah, we had a lot of fun. He had a love of travel and photography, and so I remember, a lot of road trips in the summers, and like I shared, going to Altoona basically every fall. He loved to go when it was
Right.
fall foliage.
Take pictures.
And take pictures, and going to Mount Washington. And remember how Dad would get up at like the crack of dawn to go take pictures before we would get up? I mean, he
Right.
really had a lot of interests, and so he was fun that
Right.
way.
Up early, full day.
Yeah.
The house was never quiet. As soon as he was home, the music
Music.
was on.
Always
and that
music.
music played until we
Yeah.
went to bed.
Yeah.
Big music
Yeah.
and golf were really what we knew until the retirement hobbies came to be.
Yeah.
How did he end up in the Philadelphia area? Was that the last stop for the job, or was this a
Yes.
destination?
That was the home office for the job. So
Yeah.
And you
Right.
just stayed.
Yes. Yep.
yeah, that's where they retired.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, John may no longer be with us, but his art and his creativity live on through his miniature world, which is now on exhibit at the Kruger Street Toy and Train Museum in Wheeling, West Virginia. Every year, thousands upon thousands of visitors get to experience and enjoy this attraction, and in a way, leave with just a little bit of an insight into the amazing person that was John Macon. Well, that's it for today's episode of Kruger Street Stories. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, Press our circular logo on this page to subscribe, and click on the thumbnail to watch this next episode we know you'll also enjoy.